Welcome to the Bold Claims Podcast with your hosts, Matt Danskin, Daniel Roboski, and Taylor Ammons.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Taylor, and welcome to another episode of the Bold Claims Podcast. Today, we have a really special guest that is super near and dear to our hearts, and that's Cam Wade, but he brought Jules along. So in this episode, we're going to dive into who Cam is, who Jules is, how Jules got into the industry, but most importantly, how they navigate their relationship of working together and also doing life together. So this is going to give you a lot of deliverables on how to enhance your relationship while still driving towards being the successful roofing and home service expert that you are. So hang tight, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Let's get it.
I don't know why that took so long.
Yeah, and so Cam, you and Jules are in town.
Yeah, man.
How long have you been in the roofing industry? How long have you done what you've been doing?
Well, I've been in the roofing industry for well over 20 years. My dad actually had his own business called Miracle Maintenance, which he was main focus was he was certified HVAC tech, and then did tons of interior remodels, paint, exterior, and then we did a good handful of roofs throughout the year. Old school, hand nail, rocking the 3 tabs, and yeah, that was one of my first jobs, was carrying shingles up and down, a ladder.
That's easy work, huh?
Yeah, especially when you had guys, I thought I was cool trying to get one up, and then you had guys carrying 2
or 3.
Yeah,
and not even losing balance or anything.
Yeah.
They're just like do.
Yeah,
just falling through the roofs. I've seen this
I came
videos.
across that video earlier.
But then I got into in the realm of insurance restoration for 14 years. I started with my buddies down in Texas. They own Correct General Contracting with a K.
Still in business? Huh?
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh yeah, they're doing great. They do a lot of roofs, commercial, residential, and they do.
Where
a
are
lot
they based out of?
I think they're Arlington.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, or just Fort Worth. I think they moved their office over the past couple of years, and they're actually in Fort Worth now. They do a lot of foundation work, but those guys really gave me my first start in education and going instead of the retail side that my dad was doing. Just turned me into I was already a door knocking fool. My first job away from my dad was selling 4-star telegram door to door. So I've been in door to door sales, which is Dish Network, roofing, all of it. Did that for a while. Of course, started residential in Texas, and then when I moved back up to Oklahoma, I did the kind of roofer, roller coaster, working with just about every outfit that was in Tulsa. Learned a lot, from each of the guys that I've worked with, and I think everyone except for maybe 2 are still around. They're all still really great outfits. And then I got into the commercial sales side of it and project management side. And that, of course, really intrigued me, not just because of the dollar figure, but because of the complexity. And it was something so new that I was learning that, a lot was riding on it. One little mess up and, it's a lot of money down the drain. So got into that side. And as we all know, insurance, of course, it didn't just happen in COVID. It was already leading up the way the switch, kind of the old switcheroo, was taking place. And my normal tactics of getting a roof bought with having a good storm date, having good damage, good documentation of it, and being able to provide an estimate instead of just waiting around, did the trick. But really the big change I switched over was after COVID. I've been a licensed public insurance adjuster for what, 4 years almost now? Yeah.
3 or 4.
Yeah.
So when I first met you, you were just getting into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because in the driving force was I was I think so personally offended and pissed.
Victimized.
Yeah. There's because for me it's I was seeing this happen it didn't just affect my pocketbook. Yes, it did. But more importantly, I was pissed for the policyholder.
That's how I became a PA.
Yeah. I was just so mad that I was
so mad about shit that you look at it and you're like, this should get paid for.
Yeah.
And then as the contractor, then the UPPA stuff started happening, and you're like, I can't even fight for my own shit anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm going to go become a PA, and I'm going to do that. So the guys that I do respect in the industry, like I can help them get paid, obviously take care of the insureds. But I went through the same thing where it was like, I'm so tired of fighting for shit that should be easy to get, but then having a parachute on where they're like, you can't go past this line. You know, that's what got me over the edge.
Yeah. And just the audacity of it was very blatant. Like, wait, I see what's happening here.
Yep.
You know, like we were talking about earlier, is like, you know, when they would bring in the gray shirts, you know, State Farm, they're no longer did they pull up in the white van. No longer were they cutting checks.
Yep.
The ACV right then and there.
They put that contract together with Pilot.
Yeah, buddy. And like, you know, Ladder Now, all the guys in the gray shirts that weren't carrier cats, you know, they didn't know anything. And, you know, as we were discussing earlier, all my education came from the adjusters that were lifers, and they were happy to teach you. And it wasn't this, oh, it's me against you. It was like, hey, we're here to do a job and let's do it together. And I made some great friends with the older guys that really taught me a lot. But yeah, so that was that really motivated me to, like, I want more ammunition to help these people. So I got my PA license and, you know, found some great success right off the bat. And I think just being a roofer helped with that. I could speak the language. I know how they're built. I've built them physically myself. Really helped excel that, especially building relationships with the roofers, you know, speak the same language. We are the same people. And then it just grew into having the great opportunity to jump on board with a law firm. And you know, we do large commercial loss, and, you know, it's still a big chip on my shoulder. Yeah. Like we were talking about, when you know, it bugs me. It irritates me. I want to physically fight these people because of the way they're treating these people in the worst time. You know, it's one thing, a hailstorm. Yes, that does affect people. That their home's leaking. It's the most expensive, usually the most expensive, you know, piece of property or anything they own is their home. And when it's leaking, when you know, the hands that they're usually supposed to trust, or, you know, they can't trust them anymore, it's devastating. And, you know, you put that into a hurricane or tornado or fire or flood situation, and we experienced it, you know, firsthand, is when, you know, it really hit her home. I think it was Hurricane Ian, and just seeing all the senior citizens that were our clients that were just getting treated the worst at the end of their life cycle. And some of them, we had 4 or 5 clients that lost their better halves because of the COVID BS. And so they're going through this and realizing, wow, this is going to be a battle. This is a war, and they're not even prepared for it. So yeah, it's still to this day just a mission. It's a life purpose. It's not a job. It's a calling. And, you know, this is what I do. I'm proud to do it. So yeah,
I love that. I think that's something that contractors that do storm restoration work don't get to see enough of, is when it's like true storm restoration, like severe hurricanes, tornadoes, fire, where it's not just, I've got a little bit of hail damage, somebody knocked on my door and they're trying to file a claim. We're talking about like every piece of material that's precious to them is gone, you know, and so they have nothing in some of these cases. And then, you know, I'm sure there's also cases where, you know, maybe it was a tornado, you've got to deal with getting the house rebuilt, and maybe you had a family member pass away recently or in the storm, you know. So I mean, there's a massive difference that I think majority of insurance restoration contractors don't get to see when it's losses to that magnitude.
Oh yeah, especially, you know, when they're trying to hold on to you're talking about their earthly possessions that have been passed down, or photo albums, and they're trying to keep them, and no, we can save this. I'm like, ma'am, do you understand what this has been absorbing and soaking up? You know, the septic systems, what's in the water.
Do you have people that'll do that, like be literally clinging to physical property of like, why can't we save this?
If you got a weak heart,
I would
hurricanes
have a meltdown.
are not the place for you to go. Now, 30, 60 days after a hurricane, when everybody's in there and the power's back on and the infrastructure's running, and you could go in there all day long. But if you're in there if you're there when the storm hits, and then the first probably week, if you don't have empathy, like, or if you are too empathetic, you'll hurt yourself.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. Because also too, you want to be not a savior, but you want to be an angel if you can for them in the worst time. And yes, you can be too, you know, and them, you know, them wanting, because it's almost like you're doing therapy every single day and almost reselling the process, you know, what's gonna happen, how the insurance works. Yes, they're gonna deny us, but we're gonna fight, you know, and you have every legal right to be you know, put back whole again. But yeah, that if you're too soft, yeah, you can be run over. You can overpromise and underdeliver. People will, you know, will want to attack you physically, legally, you know, all of it. But yeah, that first being in ground zero.
How many hurricanes have you worked?
2.
Got it.
Yeah, Ida and Ian, and one other, but very briefly. But yeah, in fact, it was after Hurricane Ian that we made a choice after spending 7 months in Florida, as well as family things going on, that like we're taking the year off from hurricanes.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that.
Yeah, it's because we were embedded 7 months, and it took a lot out of us emotionally and even, like, you know, physically. I was just talking to Jason Quimby. We did a podcast just talking about, it's dropping on Thursday, talking about what's in your bag when you go to a hurricane, not just physically, what gear you bring in to stay safe, to stay hydrated, communication, energy, power, batteries, but emotionally and mentally, you know, are you prepared? Most are definitely not prepared for what you're about to see or you're about to smell.
Or
loss of
what
life.
you have to endure, right?
Yeah.
Because the access to things for you are not easy, right? You have to drive 30 miles to get gas, or to get, if you're running, or for your vehicle, or for bottled water, because everybody's grabbing all that stuff up. It's like little simple things. It's like being deployed again, right? It's like we're rationing out what you have because you're not trying to make that trip out of the war zone, so to speak, and then back in every single day, because traffic's screwed depending on where the hurricane hits. And, you know, so yeah, you have to be planning for a lot of that stuff. And I've watched so many guys just roll into hurricane zone with just their pickup truck and like a case of water in the back, and like, you're not going to make it very long, homie.
Yeah, I believe that.
I've seen a lot of people tuck their tail and run back for many reasons. The emotional, the not being prepared
financially,
monetarily,
losing their ass.
That's the biggest one. You know, unprepared guys with setting wrong expectations. That this is just going to be a windfall of cash and opportunity, which
it can be.
It can be. If you're the right outfit, do you have the right backing? Do you have the right people, that your company that you're working with that has the moral compass, the mission statement, the code of ethics, you know, core values? Do they actually live them? You see it a lot unfold really quickly in those situations.
I bet.
When they start rationing their funds and pulling back their assistance to you, and like, dude, you're the one that had me out here. You know, you said you're going to rent me a house, and now I'm sleeping out of my truck month 2. What's going on? Why, you know, this one already got closed and paid. Why haven't I gotten paid? You know, I've seen that.
Yeah, a lot of these guys are robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Oh, tons. A big portion in those situations are. And it's really funny, and not funny, it's sad. But when you see those guys robbing Peter to pay Paul, and you know, because I get to hear a lot. You know, I'm talking to the roofing sales guy, talking to the owner, talking to the insurance, the adjusters, hearing all the different stories, and it you know, and you see those guys driving new Mercedes, or flashing their new Rolexes that they bought their new top sales guys while they're in the hurt, and like those claims haven't even been settled yet, but yet you took those ACV payments, and you're buying big toy. You know, I'm not going to mention names, but back in Ian, there's a company that I think the guy ran away to a third world country to stay away from being taken by a couple 3-letter agencies. But yeah, he hurt a lot of people that I care about, a lot of clients, and I would like to bounce his head off the ground because of it, but I can't legally, and I won't. Just out there, I know my attorneys are like, "Damn, you can't say that."
Yeah, because if something were to happen, it's premeditated.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah. And then so I'm sure that people can see that Matt's not here, but who do you have with you?
I got my my fiance, my partner in life, Jules here, who she's with me just about every trip, she's been
everyone I can.
everyone that she can. There's a lot of times, my son just turned 18, so there's a lot of times she has coverage to where, hey, she just needs to be home for him to offer support. But most of the time, it's her and I. Whether it's in Hurricane Ida, Hurricane Ian, she was there. The tornadoes, the fires, she goes with me everywhere. All the expos, and like we were talking about earlier. A lot of things that don't get talked about are the women in our lives that help support us when we're trying to do what we do, and it's a daily struggle and a daily grind. But having your right hand man, per se, man, to be there as a source of just that soft hand. To
or the firm one,
or the firm
in some cases, to remind you who you are. And
sometimes you need to be kicked back down the middle of the road.
For sure. But I'm definitely thankful and grateful that we, she found, once we got together, she found what I do interesting, compelling, and meaningful.
Yeah.
And so she was like, I want to do it too. I don't want to just be, a fly on the wall. So she went off and has had her PA license for some time now. And yeah, it's fun getting to do the life. We travel around, whether it's by plane. If we have our choice, we want to drive. We always, like to take the van because I can't stand the airlines.
Yeah.
The whole.
Tell us about the rig. I saw it outside.
The Vanther, as we call it.
With the Vanther.
Yeah, it's our Sprinter. That I've been a fan of tiny homes. John, you and I are talking about that. Tiny homes and van life. I went to 15 different schools growing up. I've lived in, right when I turned 18, I moved to Colorado. I've just an adventure experience has always been my thing, and being as close to the action as possible. So I've been dreaming about having a Mercedes van for a long time. And then I got the experience to spin Hurricane Ian. I actually got to spend the entire hurricane in one. And that was like, it made me like a weapon, because I could get into places that other people couldn't, because it looked so official. A black Sprinter van, like when they had
Are you saying that the lifted F-350s with spinners and shit on it's not the jam?
Don't look
no, it's
legit.
more of a Target. They're like,
You're like, you're not supposed to be in
Yeah.
here. Like with your affliction jeans and tap out shirts.
Yeah, because where was it that you were like last year that y'all had to like ferry in?
Oh, that was Ian.
Yeah. Was it?
Or maybe
Yeah, 'cause you
backpacked
had to-
in
for,
or something. The videos y'all did were wild.
Yeah, what was the name of
yeah.
that island?
That was Hurricane Ian. That was Sanibel.
Sanibel.
And that's, before they even gave passes, before they repaired the bridge.
Yeah,
the bridge was out. And me and Sawyer, my buddy, at that time we were partnered with your virtual adjuster.
That's right.
And which your large loss adjuster at the time too.
Are they still around?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Then they're the ones that let me use their Sprinter van that's almost done up the way ours is. I made some modifications to it. But I was like, this is the way to do it, Had AC all the time. So after being in a house, that's infested with, God knows what, and, the humidity, to be able to get back in there and do the dude wipe bath, shower and crank out emails and whatnot was great. So we, we were thinking about doing the Jeep Gladiator that I had and doing a camper shell and doing all that, because we watch YouTube videos and people do that, but just
it's a lot of back and forth to like pack it up,
unpack
just
it. Too much.
I'm a fan of the Sprinter vans. I keep telling Amy, I'm like, I want that, or like the Class C motorhomes, the smaller one.
Yeah,
that we were very close on getting one of those.
I wanted one of those, but you liked the being able to turn and go places.
That's
Yeah,
Sprinter
because
really,
the Sprinter acts like a van.
Yeah,
Right.
it travels really
These other
well.
ones are a bit
But we
bigger.
found a sweet deal on it. We lucked out. We didn't pay MSRP or anywhere close, because the dealership that was selling it didn't know really what they had, or didn't. They didn't know how to price it, because every time they pulled the VIN up on it, it showed an empty, hollow shell of a Mercedes van,
Right.
and it was when it was first purchased. But a cattle farmer, a rancher in Texas, actually bought it and spent probably $100,000 in just the interior build out. You know, it's like literally a land yacht, as they call it, with all the captain's leather seats in the back, TV and all that stuff.
Nice.
I took out the bench seating in the back, and I put a full size bed in there, and then took out another captain's chair, and we put a cabinet with water, with sink, water, wastewater, and a refrigerator. And so that's where we try.
I love it.
We'll take that out to our land, and we'll just sleep in that. You know, we'll go. We've been all over to, you know, we'll go visit friends in Colorado while we're working. We'll go peel off and go visit friends like Alan Mick and his wife Cassie. Like we got back from the baseball game, went and saw the Rockies, and they're like, "Well, y'all come in. We got the room ready for you." And we're like, "No, we're gonna stay out here, parked in front of the house." They're like, "What? You're crazy!" Like, dude, this is like it's like our safe zone, our comfort zone.
It's cozy.
Yeah, they thought we were crazy. That we're sleeping. Like, we got a perfectly good house in here. Got the room ready for you. You weirdos are like, no, we like our our little space. So it's a huge help, man. And it, you know, whether we're in, we've taken it to Arizona, to Florida, all over the place, and it's just a great.
And you could put 1 million miles on those things.
Yeah,
I would imagine.
We've only got
anything
70,000.
Mercedes is gonna probably last forever.
500,000 miles.
Yep.
If you take care of them. But yeah, we love it, and it gets us where we need to be, and we save so much on hotels,
Man, I can
on
imagine.
Airbnbs, all of that.
Yeah, the money, it makes up for it, right?
Yeah.
Like we started figuring out, as much as I travel, right? Like we started looking at hotel costs and all that kind of stuff, which for me, the client absorbs most of the time anyway. But still, if you just start adding up those numbers, I'm like, damn, I could buy a Thor motorhome.
Yeah, well, and where I struggle though is maybe I'm a little bougie, but I told my wife that I want to get to the point where we can kind of travel around more, and maybe even start doing some stuff like that and do first responder help or something. And but I told her that I gotta have a driver. If it's over about 4 or 5 hours, I'm like, I want to get on a plane.
If it's over 4 or 5 hours, I want to be by myself.
But think about it,
in the car. Like
she can drive anything, and I can go and crash out for 3 hours, and
that's the nice thing about it too.
Yeah,
like
you wake up and you're like,
there's that. Yeah, you just kind of alternate and do that thing. But
we did that. We went to Sturgis one year. We rented a motorhome in Dallas and drove the whole trip because I'd done the bike to Sturgis, and I'm like, I've done it. I'm not doing it again because it's awful. Yeah, tailbone hurts. But we did a 40-foot or 42-foot Thor RV, and I was driving, and I was like, Amy's like, I don't know if I want to drive, and I was like, oh, cool. And then I started to I was like, hey, listen, we're either pulling off the side of the road. So the first night we pulled in a Walmart parking lot, did the kick outs, slept, but on the way home, I was like, I'm really just trying to get home. I'm not trying to stop at and she drove the rest of the way back to Dallas in this big ass RV, and I was like, see, it's not as bad as you think it is. But yeah, we've done that, but I don't think you could do a full-size RV all the time like that. But
I think it would be a pain, especially trying to get it in and out of places and stuff like that. I mean, you're talking about a full, almost 53-footer. It's like having a semi ultimately, and I get that it's probably nicer living.
And no license requirement.
Right. Yep, that blows my mind.
You gotta have a CDL for that tractor trailer, but the vehicle that's the same that I'm hauling my kids in, I don't have to have a CDL for it. It's
right.
crazy.
Yeah. And then, so Jules, I'm curious because I can imagine that it's a pretty hot topic, and you said it's something that doesn't get talked about enough. And I agree, is the people that are more behind the scenes helping support, and then even going as far as to get your public adjuster license and start literally working alongside of them. But on the woman's side of it, what's it like being, engaged, married to somebody that is a hustler, is so compassionate, but does love their work and is in it 60, 70 hours a week? What's that like at home? How do y'all navigate that, and what can people listening take home and apply into their relationships?
The fact that he is so passionate about it makes it easier. I mean, if he was doing a job that he hated, I can't imagine that. But a lot of times, I mean, the work is his life. It's his passion. It's it's not just a 9 to 5. It's an everyday, you know, there's time constraints and, you know, I'd say we're happy. We're laughing all the time because he is doing what he loves. And we just being able to work with him is a blessing. It's a joy for me. Because I'm able to go into situations, I know I can speak intelligently about, you know, the roofing industry and public adjusting and insurance and so I just.
You say your what do you like the most?
Because I think what happens a lot of times is people assume in our industry, most of us are just dragging our wives along with us. They think that, right? They don't realize that a lot of times you guys are engaged and you're involved. And I mean, my wife runs our PA firm, right? Like I don't even do any of that shit. But 10 years ago, if we would have had that conversation, she'd have been like, no, that's your bag. No. But you decide to go down a road together and then you have to mutually learn these things. But then like your wife has been doing the same job for 20 years. Correct. And she loves it. And you couldn't disrupt that if you wanted to, right? And nor should you, right? So, but I think on our side of the world, when we're in the roofing and construction and insurance and all that, I think a lot of folks just think we just drag our wives along. Like, hey, we're going to go be the breadwinners and you just sit at home and enjoy the red bottoms and all the things, right? Like there's this perception of that. So when you see couples who are clearly happy, it's not the Facebook face, right? You've interacted with them and you're like, no, we see you guys love each other and you're happy and whatever. And, you know, I think it's a unique relationship at that point, but every couple has the thing that like, what is your thing, right? So like for Amy and I, we love going to these events and being open with people and saying our marriage works because we communicate. And they can tell we communicate. She cusses me smooth now. But when we go to events, like we coordinate, like, and it sounds silly, but like our attire coordinates all the time. Like if you see us and if you see me in a suit, she's wearing a dress that matches or like vice versa. And so much so that people have noticed it. Right. So we've become that, like people will ask, well, how have you guys made it this long? And we communicate and we talk about the things that piss us off and we do these things. I don't treat her like she's just my wife or that she's just a homemaker or she's whatever. So like for you guys, what is that like? Because you guys spend a lot more time with each other.
Yeah, my wife's at home right now. Your wife's at home right now.
I would stab my wife if I spent the amount of time that you guys spend with each other. But that's just because our dynamic doesn't breed that, right?
Well, I think and you can answer.
I think there's just a good balance. I think everyone knows Cam. He's, I don't want to say abrasive. He's not, but you know, he loves shock value. I'll say that. And he's very what's the word?
Awesome.
That's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking spur of the moment, like
spontaneous.
Okay, that's the word I'm thinking. Good word.
That checks.
Very spontaneous. Whereas I very, you know, I'm a processor. I like to think. I like to take time to do things. And
I need to introduce you to my wife.
No, let's do this. And so he's able to balance me out and kind of challenge me to like, that's not a huge deal. We don't need to spend that much time on that, you know? And sometimes
without it becoming an argument.
Right.
And that's a big thing.
I think I'm just able to be like, okay, let's not calm down because he never needs that. But it's like, okay, let's take it down a notch, you know, in
she's
certain
good at
situations. And I think
we've learned to trust each other. For one, you know, getting in front of and speaking in front of people like this and, you know, 5 cameras pointing at you is really not her wheelhouse of natural things she wants to do. but the thing I love and respect about her is like her ability to take that challenge on, even though it's scary as heck to her, but take it on and run with it. And like talking about the balancing out, that we've been able to feed off each other. That yes, I am spontaneous. I've made a ton of decisions in my life and learned from a lot of the ones that didn't work out.
Probably some bad ones.
Yeah, for sure. But I've learned how to process. You know, you do the triage of, you know, what's, you know, major over the minors, like
Right.
Zig Ziglar would say, or and that's true. Like most things in life are just not that big. They're not that deep. And we've all, been through some deep stuff to where it puts life into, especially working these. And I think her being able to work in these environments has really helped show that, like, yeah, that's not that deep. Like we've seen people in some deep situations, and just being able to be to communicate. We're very transparent and very honest. There's no beating around the bush. I am a guy that I will articulate my feelings and express them, even if I'm I want to make sure I do it the right way. I'll even chat GPT, the best way, because I know I'm not always I can't expect her to be me or to be like me. I can make a decision like that, and I can suffer the consequence and adapt and redirect and whatever. And that's not comfortable for most people. But she's done really well adapting to my style of life, and then vice versa. Me being able to slow down and realize, hey, she's not me. She is a woman who is just from a different world than I am. And that pulls the more sweetness out of me. I've pumped the brakes. She loves you. She's helped me be the most successful I can be, because she believes in me. And there's a difference. I've been, and we can openly talk about our past lives. It is who we are and what God is here. And I've had relationships to where I had someone that didn't believe in me, and it showed through execution and through the energy. And man, it is a world of a difference when you have a woman by your side that believes in you, that will stop at nothing and just trust you and let you lead the way. And I got, and we're going to do this together. And I think that's what makes us gel real well together. And then we get a kick out of just the love that we get to spread wherever we're at, whether it's with you or you. Like all of our friends that are in the industry, they're not just, hey, we're Facebook friends, and freaking love our people.
Yeah.
And I know, I see it, she doesn't want to be left out. Like
I hate it when he goes to
sometimes we're just
an expo
scheduling
without me. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because I
Amy's
feel like
Amy's flipping a coin, right? I'll be like, hey, do you want to go to Win the Storm? She's like, nah. Hey, you want to go to Win the Storm this year? She's like, yeah, I want to go. Yeah. I never know where her head's going to be at, but a lot of hers is dictated by the kids, right? It's like, well, Cooper's got this or whatever, but I can't echo that sentiment enough of like, I can look back at my past relationships and I wouldn't be where I'm at without Amy. And I tell people that all the time. Like without her, I'm working at FedEx for $500 a week, right? Because you have to have that person that trusts that even though they may not understand the direction that you're going, they trust you. And and one of the hurdles that Amy and I had to get over very early in our marriage was, I'm making decisions. You may not understand what we're doing, but you have to earn their trust, and that your intention is always for the best of you guys as a couple or as a family. Right.
In my marriage is that's where we're at.
Yeah, because
we're knocking on that 3-year mark, and my wife has been burned in a previous relationship, took out some loans, and ex was a piece of crap, and ended up sticking her with a bunch of debt. So she's a little apprehensive, and so along comes me, and raging alcoholic and drug addict in my past. And I tell her all the time, I'm like, we're already millionaires. We just haven't been paid yet. The switch was flipped a couple years ago.
But sometimes it's hard for them to recognize that.
And I get
because they're used to being fed.
Correct.
Right? They're used to being fed that bullshit. Yep. And so then you have to show them. And that's what happened with Amy and I. Took attempting and failing, winning and losing a bunch, and completely losing our shit. And to the point where there's been times I've looked at her, I'm like, I get it if you're done. Like, I get it, because we have lost our asses for the last time. And she's like, baby, you may not always get it right, but I know that your intention is right. Yep. So where are we going next? And to have that level of support from somebody, you can't replicate that. And once you've got it, you don't want to let it go, right? So, but you can't Lenny it from Mice and Men and accidentally squeeze it to death, right? Like, you have to nurture that, but then it has to reciprocate too, because I know that she's always got the best interest of everybody in mind. And I have to tell her sometimes to worry about herself, and not in a negative way, not like, hey, calm down, you're getting a little crazy. Like, hey, go do something go to the spa, go do whatever it is, get your hair done, your nails done. I don't give a shit, because she's like the least womany, girly girl woman you'll ever meet, but she likes to get her hair done. She likes to get her nails done. She likes to get a massage. I'm like, okay, go do all that shit. She's simple like that. She doesn't have these like extravagant things. And then you see us and we're like, compared to where we came from, we're leaps and bounds away from those people, right? Especially my side of the family. And, you know, we joke, because like my mom called one time and she's like, she's on our cell phone plan. And she's like, she said something. I'm like, well, Mom, I'm just getting my ass kicked right now. And she's like, well, is Amy doing anything? I'm like, yeah, Amy's doing everything that we normally do. Well, do you need me to pay my portion of the cell phone bill? I'm like, Mom, your $30 of our cell phone bill is not doing anything. And she's like, well, I just wish I could help. I'm like, you couldn't pay any of our bills. And that's not a shot at you.
Right.
We've just taken our life to that point where we're without support. We are other people's support, and I'd rather be there. And the only reason that we're there is because we are such a good team. Because I found a woman who doesn't care that I had 2 divorces and 2 bankruptcies before I met her, that he had drugs and alcohol before he met Loyal, that you had your shit before you guys met. Like, when you find somebody that's not going to hold you accountable and relegate who you are based on where you came from, we're combat vets.
Oh yeah.
Put that in a freaking box. And then add in all the other stuff, right? Like, just, you want to deal with night terrors and PTSD moments and the potential for addiction all the time and all these things, and then be like, do you want to hang out?
Yeah.
And then somebody says, yeah. You're like, hell yeah, you do. Let's do it. Let's do this dumb thing together. And you grab onto it and you run with it.
Yeah.
Amy has no reason to have stuck with me as long as she has, right? And I think we all feel that way at some point in our relationship. You look at your partner and you're like,
yeah,
good for me. You know,
for sure.
You should anyway. If you don't, you figure it out. But
yeah, and I've seen, like, man, she's my secret weapon. When we had a fantastic victory for a policyholder in Arizona. We're talking millions, and the other partner I'd had on the claim with me rubbed the EGA wrong, wrong, and that's why he fought it so hard. Or the other property that he was on. Admittedly, like, oh, that guy's not on this one. He's like, thank God. He's like, I couldn't stand that little son of a bitch, you know. And you know, and I can see where he's coming from on that. But with her, like, I brought her to the engineer appointment. No, it was a building consultant with the EGA came out, and she was like the lubrication that we needed for this relationship to be healed. I'm up there I'm on the flat roofs with the building consultant. We're just getting to ham it out, and I'm showing him everything. Well, she's down there hamming it up with that guy. And, you know, he's like a 70-year-old man. He is literally on the way out. You know, he's like, I just want to get these settled out so I can, you know, retire.
Yeah. Literally on the way out.
Literally. And I know having her there was all of the difference. She was down there building such a great relationship that he just liked her and probably saw her as a granddaughter type or whatever. And she's just, I found that to be true. Whenever we go to all these different adjuster appointments, I just let her do her thing. And I go get on the roof. So she'll get on the roofs when there's times I'm like, no, babe, it's too scary. I'm not letting you climb up a 30-foot ladder. If it's like, access from inside, we'll do that. And she loves that. But more times and then also when she is up there on the flat roof, chalking damage, pointing it all out, they're in love with that.
Right.
And seeing that, like, oh, so y'all are not just together, but y'all are like together. Like, yeah, man, this, so I'll reach over and say, oh yeah, it's a good one. Good eye, baby. I give her a kiss.
Right.
And, like, give her a pat on the butt. And here we go. And, it's been great. Yeah. She's my secret weapon. And it's just, it's really been cool. A blast. We're definitely blessed to have the teamwork that we have.
Yeah.
I love that. What one action item can people take to emulate? Because like I told you before we hit record, is I really, really look up to y'all's relationship, and we finally got to meet in person earlier today. But, obviously social media is a screenshot of everybody's life, and it's the things that they want to post and show.
Yep.
And
because
I know that
nobody's posting the fist fight they got into
no,
last night.
heck no.
Right.
And I know that we all have our ups and downs, but I think Rubber might have said it earlier, but we can tell how much y'all like each other. And so what's like one piece of advice or something that couples can take home that maybe they are struggling, or they see y'all on Facebook and they say, man, I want that. What do you have for them?
I'd say the number one that has helped us is really digging into our relationship with God. There's folks out there that care less, but I don't care. That's one thing we remind ourselves of our mission down here on planet Earth is to be servants, have the servant heart, never lead with need. And I think that's how we lead each other and remind each other of how we are to love, how we are to give grace to everyone else out there as well as to each other. And we can't stay mad at each other long. Like we talk about it, we don't let it boil over. We have these conversations, doesn't matter. We could be in the van before we go into adjuster appointment. Life is happening before that's happening. And I've got to be in cam mode. The guy that's I got to be psychological with what I say, how I say it, so I can be successful for these people. And it's hard to do if you're going through emotional roller coaster with your better half.
Yeah.
So we've been really good at being able to, let's talk about it. And it doesn't have to be an argument. It's just a conversation, and just being able to be real with each other. For me, it helps me to be able to say, listen, this is how I feel. This is what I need. Does that sound fair? And she can come right back at me. So I think that's what helps is.
But that's the entry to compromise though too, right? Is like, hey, I need this. And if you can't do all of it, just the effort sometimes makes all the difference in the world. But when you get rid of all the hatefulness in the argument, because Amy and I used to fight that all the time. So Amy, that woman would say some hateful shit, right? Because that's how she argued. It really didn't have anything to do with me. She in her head was like, I have to fight this way because we disagree, and I don't like the fact that you're disagreeing with me. So let me tell you all the ways that I hate you, and like hateful stuff. And we sat down one day and we were just like, listen, we're not doing this anymore. And you have to be able to talk through those things. You can be heated about it, right? There's nobody that can say you don't get to have an emotion about it. It's how you want to handle those things. When you find a partner that can actually have a conversation as opposed to talking down and be condescending or so stuck in the mud of how they feel about it that they're not willing to flex at all. Like when you can find that with a person, you just have to be able to work together and compromise to make each other happy in those spaces.
True. What about you, Jules? What do you?
Well said. I think the communication is huge. I think for me, someone who overthinks things and who is a processor, it physically hurts me if there's any tension or anything like that. So the fact that we can communicate so openly and have that transparency, I feel closer to you after those talks, and I value them, and then I'm able to work on specific points and we grow.
Yeah.
I love that. I appreciate y'all being vulnerable like that. That's deep.
Thanks for asking, buddy.
So at this part of the show is where we're going to go ahead and get into the clip that we're going to have our guests and my right-hand man get to react to. So this is one that I actually found and shared over with our incredibly handsome cameraman. And so I'm excited to get y'all's reaction to this because I thought this had me dying. We need it loud and proud. So we got a guy on a metal roof here.
Got the blue tank top and the shell necklace, man.
I'm telling you,
this is going to be so good.
Yeah, so he's ultimately like showing off these shoes and how badass these shoes are.
Oh, God.
Is that the same guy that screwed himself to the freaking thing? It sounds like the same guy.
That's fun. I don't know.
I don't think
I don't know.
is.
You don't think it is?
I freaking died, man.
So are those they look like Hey Dudes that were magnetic?
They've got to be, but what threw me off
There's got to be
when
satire in there.
It's got to be because I'm wondering if they screwed the shoes to the roof because when he fell and grabbed, the shoes didn't move at all. So maybe they are magnetic. It'd be a heck of a strong magnet.
But his feet came out of those really quick.
Yeah.
Too easy.
I get nervous. I used to get nervous looking at people's feet on the roof because you'd see people get up on the roof in footwear that you should not be on a roof in, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
like we used to have profiling, but you get the Indian dudes that would get up there in their freaking flip-flops.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing holding your foot in that shoe.
Yep.
So as soon as you get on an incline and you go to step, like you better hope that big toe's got a good grip.
You got a good little curl going on.
I've had guys get up there in their house shoes. Crocs are another one.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, Crocs I do well. I've gotten on some roofs in Chucks before.
Chucks were my jam,
Chucks
or
used
like
to
the
be
ones
my jam.
like the
Those-
ones you have on
Yep,
right there. I used to wear those.
worked well. The Nike Tangens were actually the first.
It was the
shoes.
foam.
Soft.
The foam
Yeah.
bottom. Yeah.
But I used
They were
to
kinda like
take
the mesh shoe.
I used to watch crews go to Walmart and they'd get the Brahma work boots.
Oh yeah.
And then they'd sit there and they'd take a razor blade and they'd cut all of the tread off so it's flat. So it's
Oh,
flat,
yeah.
so it would stick better.
Yeah, it's ultimately like the surface area
Yeah.
down there, and then as long as you don't have something that is a harder sole, because my Ariat boots, if I
these-
get over about a 412, pow, I'll look like that guy.
We were at Danskin's parents and I didn't know we were getting on the roof. And Taylor's like, "You coming up?" I was like, "No, I'm wearing these."
well, and
It's
the
a
bad
metal
thing
roof
is, I
and
was
it's
like,
a 6, 7, 12.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
712
it's
metal
covered-
roof is.
Covered in
Speed.
pollen and
Oh, yeah.
dust. And I was like, "No, I'm good."
I was
He
sliding.
went up first. I went up the ladder and I'm watching him in his shoes like slipping. And I was like, "Oh
I was
no."
I was sliding backwards and kind of making my way to the valley, and like I knew I didn't panic because I knew I wasn't going to slide off, but I was sure sliding, and I was
Yeah.
like, I need to make my way to this valley or I'm going to be down there with Robo.
Yep. I got halfway up that ladder and saw him slipping and I was like, "I'm wearing these boots? Nah. These are not metal roof walking boots at all."
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I'm down with I haven't tried them yet, but the metal cougar paws, the magnetic ones.
Yeah.
I haven't tried those yet. I've seen guys, other adjusters and whatnot, wearing them.
I've heard good things about them.
I'm down for it. I mean, as I've gotten older,
Are they not scratching the coating on the
No,
metal?
they actually have the same foam bottom to them, and then the magnets behind that. So you still have the soft sole, and then the magnets under that. So short answer, no, because it's not magnet directly to metal.
My brain does not compute that.
Yeah. So you got like boot.
No,
and
no,
then
I know what you're
magnet, and then,
saying,
like
But at that point, we're no longer stuck to the metal.
yeah,
at
and I
that
think
point,
it's
we're
more
still
like
sliding.
It gives you a little. You're not like really. Vroom,
Correct.
Which would be
Like
way
you,
cooler
yeah,
if
you
they
couldn't
did.
do the Michael Jackson
no,
the toe
yeah,
thing.
where the
Yeah.
hip lie. I don't think so.
where he locks out and goes backwards. Yeah, because you're kind of
Yeah.
almost like a space boot. The way I've seen people walk on. 'em.
Yeah.
But I'm down for getting those as I've gotten older, and
I just don't climb roofs anymore.
yeah, that's where I'm getting, man. You can ask her.
I'll get on flat roofs with an access.
Yeah, same here.
But shingle roofs and stuff, like we were at Amy's parents and I was waiting for them to be like, "You want to get up there and take a look?" Because my answer was going to be no. Because I
You're
don't
like,
know.
please ask so I can tell you no.
I just need like a drone to pick me up and take me up there.
Yeah.
The trust of ladders anymore is
that's really it. It's the ladder's the
Yeah.
issue. It's not the roof.
No,
it's
no,
the
no.
ladder.
Well,
And
then,
I'm
yeah,
a creature
'cause-
of habit, right? So I used to get off the roof onto the ladder the same exact way.
Oh yeah.
And I had a buddy of mine, he took the ladder to go look at another part of a building and they came back. But when he put the ladder back, it wasn't where I put it. So I couldn't go through my normal motion because I will put both hands on, swing my right leg
Oh
around.
yeah.
And so I had to do it in reverse and I was stuck there. I was like,
You're like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
and so I just sat down. I was like,
That actually
I have
happened
to
with one of-
contemplate this for a minute.
I had a guy a couple months ago that was working with me, and we went to go get on a roof, and I was like, I said, I don't mind shooting up there and getting it, because he had his cougar paws, but it was 912, I think, single story access, and I was like, I said, hey man, I'll shoot up there and just get the perimeter photos real quick. You don't have to come up if you don't want to. He was like, no, I'll get up there. I don't have any issue with it. And so I'll always, if I'm stepping up onto a steeper roof, I want to like get to a sidewall, something, or a valley,
Yeah,
or something
as
to make
you
it
should.
easier to get on and off. And so he had set the ladder up. I mean,
Right in the middle
right
of
on
the
an
field.
eave,
Oh.
right in the middle of the field. And I'm just like, hey, if you want to go up there, you can. I'm gonna put my ladder to the right of this chimney so that when I get up, I can go between the ladder and the chimney and I can grab the back side of the chimney and get up. And he's like, all right, cool, we'll do it your way. And then we get up on there and I get around the chimney and I shoot on up because I'll get behind the chimney and then shoot to the ridge. That way, God forbid, if I come loose, I'm going to hit that chimney. And so I turned back around and I looked back and he made it to behind the chimney and that was it. He just chilled right there. And I was like, he said, next time I'll stay on the ground on the next one. I was like, I told you, you
and
didn't
it's
have to
this
get
like
up
weird
here.
machismo thing too, where they're like, I got to be able to climb this roof. You don't.
Yeah.
You're not proving anything to me by climbing this roof.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I tell the guys that
Like-
come on with us of like, hey, if you see a roof that you're not comfortable getting on or you feel a little nervous or something like that, listen to that stuff. And you know, because it's not worth nobody's roof is
nothing's
worth
good
not
for you
going
when
home.
your asshole's puckered up before you get off the ladder.
Right.
Right. Like, have you had any moments where they're like, you get the like super chauvinistic men where like, sweetie, you don't need to get on the roof?
Oh.
Have you got those
no,
yet?
I haven't got those. I've gotten some where it's like, you gonna come up? And then I'm like, I'll sit this one out. But
Right.
a lot of times I will go up just because I want to see and see if I can point out, you know.
So you don't have an
things like
issue
that.
with the steep roofs or anything?
Oh, steep, yes, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah,
Me
he
personally,
doesn't
I don't
let
let
me
her
get on those.
do those because for one, I don't even like getting on those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've got a lifetime of experience.
I don't want to climb a super
I've
high-
watched my
it's-
steep threshold like
Same
lower
here, dude.
over the
Mine's
years.
getting there.
I
I was
used
on.
to be a spider monkey. I mean, I don't rock climb anymore, not like I used to. But I used to do all that. I used to rappel out of a freaking helicopter. I can't do any of that now. I just won't. Like
So you could. You just.
yeah, because the anxiety of it, like even like going, on the tallest extended, ladder you can get, I'm literally praying each rung.
Yeah. Because you've seen enough videos now. But it's like the plane crash. It's the plane
That
crash
might have
theory,
been
right?
it.
I
That might have
think
been what
so. I
messed
think
everybody
YouTube
up.
has messed me up a
Put the
lot.
fear in there.
Yeah.
I will tell you, when I lost confidence in ladders, I was in Des Moines and I was working this big warehouse, like landscaping place. And one of the roofs had no access. It was a big like warehouse inside and they stored plants and all that shit. It wasn't like a greenhouse, but it was a 37-foot eave with no access anywhere. And nobody had a 40-foot ladder. So the roofer that was out there had two 20s. So he takes the sections of the 20s, puts them together and makes a 40, right? And so I'm halfway up this ladder. So you got the two pieces and then the piece underneath that's holding them together. We should have been the other way around. So the pressure was against the two. We weren't. And so I'm halfway up and the adjuster starts coming up behind me. And I'm like, hey, man, you should wait. And I feel the ladder start to creak. And I was oh, no. So I hurried my ass up. And I was like, we have to come back down. At some point, we got to come back down this ladder. And the adjuster gets up there and he's shaking by the time he gets up. I'm like, you good, bro? He's like, no, this is stupid. Whose idea was this? I'm like, you're the one that said we had to get on the roof today, man.
I think the scariest point is getting off the ladder and then.
Well, that's the
getting
most
back
dangerous
on.
part.
So do you step to
Getting
the
on and
side
off
or you
the
step
ladder.
over?
I think to the side.
I'm a step to the side person. I bet Taylor's an over. You're over the top rung. aren't you?
Mine kind of depends. If I'm stepping onto
The guys that go over the top
a
stress me out.
less steep roof, then I'll shoot it one rung over and I'll go over the top of it. If I'm getting onto a steeper roof, then I'm usually trying to hit a penetration or a valley, and then I'll come around the side and kind of push off. But I finally got to use that little ladder lockjaw
Yeah, how do you like
the other
that?
day. It was actually really cool because so I was carrying my 28-foot aluminum ladder and a big gust of wind came and like I was like, whoa, because I was like, this
No,
thing
see, at
almost
that
came
point-
out of my hand.
At that
And
point,
so,
I'm going down.
yeah, I told my guy Nick that was with me. I said, "Hey man, grab that little ladder lockjaw because I don't really want to get on this. You know, it's like a 5 or 6, 12 2-story, but I
It's
still
the
didn't want the
2-story
ladder
part.
to."
Yeah.
You know, because then I either have to call for reinforcements, and then when I do that, somebody's going to be filming when they pull up because my ladder blew off, and they're going to want to get that on camera. So, I was a fan of it though.
I'm all like, there's so many new tools that are out now.
And there's
that
no
make
reason
life
to not
easier.
use them.
I know.
There's no reason, unless it's just an ego thing.
Yeah.
Speaking of tools,
Speaking of tools, that's a great segue.
Yeah. So at this part of the episode, we'll always go in and discuss some type of neat tool that's out on the market. And I have always been a massive fan and supporter of the Ultimate Pipe Flashing from Lifetime Tools. I've got a good relationship with them. They actually put Paragon in one of their calendars. It was just a picture of one of the Lifetime boots, but I got a lot of love for Lifetime tools, and so I wanted to show the ultimate pipe flashing for people to be able to see. And so the neat thing about these products from Lifetime Tools, are you familiar
No,
with some of them? Okay, so
not that.
what I like the most about them is a standard pipe jack is going to last, 10, 12 years before it begins to break down.
If that, depending if
Yeah.
you.
And so, we can kind of see on here where, some of these boots will start to break down. And it's because we have the UV coming down and beating onto that collar, and it's made of that rubber base, and so the UV is actually degrading that rubber, and these are made from a silica base, so UV doesn't degrade this material, and so they give you a cool little wipe when the roof gets torn off. You wipe down the pipe, and then you're able to slide this back over and then pop this collar around here. No sealants required, right? And then there's actually nail placement spots for all of your fasteners. So if you go through and install it according to their installation guide in here, it's got a 24 gauge Kynar pan down on the bottom. They'll warrant that for the life of the roof or 50 years. And I actually had to get on my guys because some of the first few that they installed, they did it like they do regular pipe boots, where they rip 2 of the metal to wood screws with the grommets into them, and then they put a bead of sealant where the collar and the boot all come together. And I'm like, hey guys, that voids this warranty, so make sure. I said they put little cool slots for nails for a reason. Use them.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I love the folks at Lifetime Tools, and they'll actually send a chunk of these little samples to people if they want to use them to show their customers.
So
And
this
I'll
is
always-
from a 2-inch, and that's a 4-inch there.
Yeah, this one's a 4, so they'll do
Listen, like you can
they'll do
identify
1.25 inch, 1.5 inch,
says
2-inch, 3-inch, 4-inch, and then they make some products for the Brone vents, some of the large and small kitchen vents. So it's pretty cool. I like their stuff, and relatively affordable. It's literally, when we're doing contract closings, it's literally the only upgrade that I look at customers and say, hey, this is the only no-brainer option, because standard pipe boot's going to last you 10, 12 years. When it does finally fail, you're going to find out, because you're going to have a stain in your bathroom. Because let's be honest, you're not going to get annual inspections done. And so you're not going to catch this. You're going to have a stain in your ceiling. Then you're going to call a roofing contractor out. He's going to come out, and you're going to pay at least $500 to get that thing repaired, not including the money that either you take to go get some kills and paint it yourself, or bring a painter in to have him do it. Next thing you know, you've spent $800, and you could have spent $300 today and never had to worry about it. So would you like to add that upgrade now, or deal with the issue in the future? So they're probably
what's their warranty on that?
Yeah, so they'll do, if you install it according to their spec, they'll warrant it for the life of the roof or 50 years, whichever happens first. I mean, I almost sell them on every single job.
Nice.
And they're not extremely expensive in the grand scheme of things, but they're a good product. I really like them.
What else? And they don't have a universal one. It's, you have your 1 inch, your 2 inch, your
Correct.
3 inch, your 4 inch.
It's fit to the size of that pipe.
Nice.
Yep. So
there's no doing cutting or anything like that.
Nah, and then that's it. Because most of the time with those that you just pull on the size, if I accidentally had my pliers a little too far onto there, and then I'm just we'll hit it with some sealant and keep it pushing. That sealant fails in 5 years, and we got a leak.
Less.
I think they're
it
cool.
says 2 on it.
I told you I was smart.
So smart.
I can read sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad y'all came, man. That was a fun
too.
episode. It was. It's always a good time to be able to connect. I know that Danskin wasn't here, but as always, we appreciate everybody that watches the show.